Hello, and welcome to the Sci-Fi Christian Book Reviews, brought to you by the Sci-Fi I am Ben DeBono, and I am finally back with another book review. I apologize for how lax I have been over the last month. I know I released the Odyssey book review just a week or so ago. I actually recorded that one over a month ago, and was just kind of sitting on it for a while because I knew I was not going to be able to do that much over the last month. I was working on a home project. Actually, the room I'm in right now used to be a third-car garage. We remodeled it and everything. Now it's my office. Who cares about any of that? But anyway, that ate up tons of my time over the last month. Didn't have much time to read, let alone record book reviews, so didn't really get a lot out there in the last month. But we're back. And hopefully we'll have a couple out for you this week and some good stuff coming up here in the not too distant future. But today I'm going to talk to you about Quicksilver, Neal Stephenson's first novel in the Baroque cycle. And this is a tough novel to know quite what to say about. I'm not going to really review this so much yet. I kind of feel like I need to punt on a full review until I've read the rest of the trilogy, because this book is so complex, it's so mind-bending, it's so difficult to know quite what to make of it at this point. So I feel very inadequate to give you a full review of it. So I'm not going to give it a star rating yet. What I'm going to do is give you some preliminary thoughts on this first book in the trilogy, and we'll see where I'm at after I finish book 2, The Confusion. Might be the same case with that one, or maybe I'll be ready to offer some review-like thoughts then. But for now, just consider this part 1 of the Baroque cycle review, and unfortunately, because these books are very, very long, and very dense, even by Neal Stephenson standards, parts 2 and 3 may be a little while in coming. But anyway, so Baroque cycle, Quicksilver, initial thoughts. Here's the thing. This is a tough book, like I said, to know quite what to make of it. And here's why. If I can sum it up in one thought for you, this is it. I like this book a lot. I admired it a lot. I don't know if I enjoyed it that much. But I'm not sure that that's an issue. See, I'm not sure that's even a criticism here. Because at the end of the day, just because you didn't enjoy a book, maybe not all books are necessarily there for our enjoyment. I think some books are there to make you think, to make you look at things a different way, to make you consider big ideas. And this book certainly did all of those. Now, what throws me a little bit is that Neal Stephenson's books are a lot of times immensely enjoyable. And I don't want to make it sound like there's no fun stuff whatsoever in this book. But, you know, you're not going to get like the Captain Crunch chapter from Kryptonomicon, which if you don't know what I'm talking about, you very much need to read that book, and that will stick in your mind. You know, there's no super amusing, entertaining stuff like that. And on the flip side, I didn't find myself quite as wrapped up in the ideas as I did in something like Anathema, which I suppose also isn't quite as, you know, entertaining, laugh out loud funny in places as some of his other stuff is. But that's not to say this is a bad book or not an important book. You know, see, I think that a lot of times when we sit down to review stuff, and when I sit down to review stuff, it's often a very narcissistic way, right, where it's like, well, did it do this for me? Did it give me the jolt of entertainment I wanted? Did it give me the amusement I was looking for? And I think that's a very selfish way to read. And the comeback might be, well, reading is a selfish activity because it's something you're doing for yourself. And I think that would be a common way to look at reading. It's just one I disagree with. I think that reading is not a selfish activity. I think reading is fundamentally a communal activity. It's participated in the thoughts of someone else. It's a great act of intimacy if you think about it. So I don't see my amusement as being an entertainment and even enjoyment as being paramount in a book. I like enjoying books. But in this case, I found myself not necessarily enjoying it, at least in the way I enjoyed other Neal Stephenson books, but very much liking what I was reading, liking the ideas it was presenting. So what are some of those ideas? Let's talk about that a little bit. This book is officially, or really the whole trilogy is officially a prequel to Kryptonomicon. Right? You see some of the ancestors of the characters in that book show up, and then Enoch Root, the same Enoch Root is in Quicksilver, so there's some bizarre stuff going on there. But really, you could look at this as a prequel to all of Neal Stephenson's books, because it's about the early development of scientific method, of cryptography, of how information is shared, all the ideas that he has fleshed out in Snow Crash and Anathema and Kryptonomicon, all these great books. Their fundamental core is here, and he's exploring the historical beginnings of those ideas that we take for granted, the historical beginnings of technology as we know it. And this is very interesting. It's very interesting. It's not quite as, oh, cool, look what he's doing, with technology in the way that Kryptonomicon was. Oh, wow, check out this cryptography stuff. No, it's more basic than that. It's more fundamental than that. It's historical. It's dense. It's long. It's difficult to read. But the point that I feel like he's driving home is that, look, these ideas we're talking about in all of these science fiction books didn't just start yesterday. They've been going on and on. They've been a part of how we've been looking at the world for a long time. And they're part of a cultural movement that's been going on for 400 years. And that's very important for us to realize. Going back to the whole narcissistic thing I was talking about a minute ago, that I think realizing something like that, realizing that the ideas we take for granted and the ideas we're thinking up today are ideas that we are able to wrestle with because of the good work done before us. So I really like that. I also think it's something of a love letter to the Enlightenment, which is interesting because, in my circles, the Enlightenment often gets a bad rap, and for some deserved reasons. I'm Catholic, okay, and so Catholicism and modernism have not always seen eye to eye so hot. And there are many, many cases where I will take the church's side on that and defend it to the core. I think there are very legitimate criticisms of modernism, of Enlightenment thought, of the results of how that philosophy has influenced our world in a negative way. I won't get into all of those now. But I also need to acknowledge that people who kind of think that way, like I do, can tend to be maybe a little narrow-minded about the Enlightenment, not appreciating a lot of the good things it did bring us. And it did. A lot of good comes out of the Enlightenment. And I acknowledge that. The church acknowledges that. And I think that it's good to come in contact with somebody who is very much in love with those ideas that started there. And Neal Stephenson portrays that. And he forced me to look at this period of history in a different way. And I'm grateful for that. So, Quicksilver, Part 1, difficult book to read. Just because you've read his other ones, don't assume that you're going to enjoy this book, that you're going to even be able to make it through this book. It's very dense. It's very difficult to read. It's unlike anything else he's written. But I do think it's worth it. I think it's a worthwhile novel. I'm looking forward to reading the rest of the trilogy. Maybe I'll start to enjoy it, but who cares? Just put that aside. Just stop worrying about, your own enjoyment of what you're reading for once, and focus on what the author's trying to say. Because Neal Stephenson's saying some very worthwhile things here. Yeah, it might not be super entertaining. That's okay. They're still worth listening to. I'm glad I did. So again, punting on star rating for now. We'll see how the next two books go. But Quicksilver, glad I read it. Looking forward to reading the rest. Great ideas in here. It's a book that made me think in different ways, and that's really all you can ask from a novel at the end of the day, is to help you to look at the world in a different way. And from that perspective, Quicksilver more than accomplished its mission. So, that's all for now, I guess. Whenever I finish the confusion, I'll be back with part 2 of these thoughts on the Baroque cycle. But for now, I'm Ben DeGarno, and this is the Sci-Fi Christian Book Reviews. Goodbye.